Let's start off with Charlie Morton to the Tigers. Now, this man was absolutely terrible for the Orioles at the beginning of the season. He did rattle off a pretty good stretch before the deadline and ended up going to the Tigers. But so far, up and down up to this point. ERA close to a 6, FIP at a 4.45. Now, he does have 11 strikeouts per 9 with the Tigers, which is 2 more than he had with the Orioles. But overall, this has been pretty underwhelming. I'm going to give it a D. On to the Reds, who made a move for Brian Hayes. Now, we all know the deal with Hayes. Great glove at third base, but hadn't really been able to do much with the bat during his time with the Pirates. Now, moving to the hitter-friendly Great American Ballpark, though, I thought could have been a nice remedy, and so far, it's looking pretty good. So far with the Reds, he's hitting a little over 270 with an OPS close to 800, which is 200 points more than what he was doing with the Pirates. So, definitely seeing some better results here. So far, so good, and he's under control for another 5 seasons. I'm going to give this a B+. Let's go to another third baseman, but this time in the Bronx with Ryan McMahon heading to the Yankees. Now, I remember thinking Eugenio Suarez would have been perfect for the Yankees, but they didn't want to go to that price point, so they turned to the Rockies for Ryan McMahon. Now, so far, he has provided that great defense at third base, but hasn't really been able to do much with the bat. Only hitting a little over 200 with an OPS under 700 up to this point. Good defense, though, has helped the infield, has helped stabilize some things, so I'll go with a C. Speaking of Eugenio Suarez, let's talk about him heading to the Mariners. Now, this guy was absolutely mashing with the D-backs this year, hitting 36 homers over 106 games, and he has kept up the power so far in Seattle, hitting 6 homers over 30 games, but he's only hitting around 200 on base, under a 300. Now, the slugging is still okay, but it's nowhere near what he was doing with the D-backs. Now, the WRC+, that's gone down as well. I'd like to see some better numbers there with him, but overall, he has provided a bit of pop in the middle of the order. I'll go with a C+. Let's stick with the Mariners and talk about Josh Naylor. Now, overall, Naylor has been more productive than Suarez up to this point with the Mariners, hitting around 250 with an OPS a little over 700, 5 homers, and 12 stolen bases for the big man over 34 games. Now, he has a decent WRC+. His on-base is down, though, from what he was doing in Arizona. Had a 360 with the D-backs, so I'd like to see those numbers come back up. But overall, decent production so far. I'll go with a B-. Let's talk about Cedric Mullins heading to the Mets. Now, in his last year with the Orioles, his batting average and on base weren't all that great, but he was providing some pop and some speed. 15 home runs, 14 stolen bases over 91 games, but since going to the Mets, not really anything productive here. Hitting under 200, OPS under a 600. He is stealing some bases, 6 overall up to this point, so he is providing value on the base paths, but overall, this hasn't been great. Let's stick with the Mets and talk about the 2 guys they acquired for the bullpen, Ryan Helsley and Tyler Rogers. Now, the Mets gave up a pretty penny for these guys, giving up a combined 6 prospects overall, and so far it's been kind of a mixed bag. Starting with Helsley, he's had a few bumps, to say the least, posting an ERA close to a 10 with his strikeouts down and his walks up from St. Louis over 13 games. Rogers, though, has been solid, posting an ERA at 2.20 with 0.5 walks per 9 over 16 games so far. So, yeah, Helsley has been kind of a mess up to this point, but Rogers has provided a lot of stability for the bullpen. I got to give Helsley an F so far, but Rogers, I'll go with an A. Let's talk about the relievers the other team in New York got. The Yankees getting David Bednar, Camille Duvall, and Jake Bird. And this has also been kind of a mixed bag. Jake Bird, who they got from the Rockies, is currently at AAA after giving up 7 runs in 2 innings. So, yeah, that's an easy F for me. Now, as for Duvall, he's still with the Yankees, but he's been up and down. ERA closer to a 5, but it does look like he is settling more into a middle relief role lately, so I guess that helps. I'll give that a C-. Bednar, though, has been good after a bumpy start, and he's been the closer as of late, saving 3 games with an ERA of 2.70 and over 13 strikeouts per 9. I'll go with an A-. Let's talk about the Yankees' rivals, the Red Sox, who got Dustin May and Steven Matz. Now, May was very inconsistent with the Dodgers, had a lot of injuries over his time there, and this year just couldn't fully find his way, so the Red Sox decided to take a chance on him, and so far, it's been pretty up and down. He's had a couple of good starts, but a few bad ones as well, and with the Red Sox calling up Peyton Toley recently, it's looking like Dustin May is going to be going to the bullpen, which I think could be good for him. Let's see how he does there, but overall, I got to go with a D+ here. Steven Matz, though, has been solid, pitching a middle relief, ERA at a 1.29. Now, his strikeouts have gone down since his time with the Cardinals, but he's provided good stability for the bullpen. I'll give it an A. We might as well stick with the AL East bullpens and talk about Griffin Jax. I was very surprised when the Rays pulled this trade off because I wasn't expecting the Rays to be involved for Griffin Jax, but here we are. Now, with the Twins, he was tearing it up, striking out over 14 batters per nine over 50 games. He's still striking out a lot of batters with the Rays, but he's been more prone to the home run ball since coming over, giving up 3 home runs over 13 games so far. He's been very up and down up to this point in Tampa, and they gave up a lot in Taj Bradley going back to the Twins, so you would like to see some better numbers from Griffin Jax here. I still like the trade because I think it's going to be valuable for them over the next couple of years. The numbers right now don't really help, so that does ding it a little bit, but again, I think he's going to be good for them over the next couple of years. I'll go with a B. We might as well stay in the AL East and talk about Shane Bieber going to the Blue Jays. Now, it did take a while for Bieber to actually make his debut for the Blue Jays after coming back from Tommy John, but so far so good over a couple of starts. He's only given up 3 runs so far, over 11 1/3 innings pitched, while striking out 15 batters. Not bad at all. Now, I know it's a pretty small sample so far, but right now, I think you got to go with an A, especially if you can keep this up going into the postseason. Shifting over to the American League West, let's talk about another veteran starting pitcher getting moved in Merrill Kelly going to the Rangers. Now, after the trade, the Rangers were looking like they were starting to fall out of it, but lately, they've gotten red hot. They're within a couple of games of the 3rd wild card spot, only behind the Mariners up to this point. Now, Kelly, he has been very solid so far. He's been doing his part. ERA to 3.31 over the 6 starts so far. He has been a bit prone to the home run ball, giving up 7 homers over 35 1/3 innings pitched, but overall, he's been able to work around that. I'll go with a B+. Let's stay in Texas and talk about Carlos Correa heading to the Astros. This was one of the most surprising moves at the deadline, but it was pretty cool to see Correa head back to his former team, and so far, it's been pretty solid. With the Twins this year, he was only hitting .267 with an OPS of just over 700, but since coming back to Houston, the numbers have gotten better. The batting average is up over 20 points so far. OPS is closer to a 750. Now, the Astros have been struggling this past month, but with Isaac Paredes going down with a hamstring injury, having Correa back in the fold has definitely helped keep them afloat with the solid numbers. I'll go with an A-. Speaking of the Twins, let's talk about the Phillies, who brought over a couple of guys from there, including Harrison Bader and Yohan Duran. Now, let's start with Bader, who's been very good so far with the Phillies. With the Twins, he was putting up pretty decent numbers, hitting .258 with an OPS at 778, but with Philly so far, these numbers have gotten a lot better, hitting over 300 with an OPS closer to an 870, while playing solid defense in the outfield. Now, as for Duran, they did give up a steep price by giving up one of the top prospects in the game in catcher Eduardo Tate, and right-hander Mick Abel, former first-round pick, but he's been worth every penny so far. His ERA is only at a 1.69, while his FIP is only at a 0.70 over 13 games. That's because his strikeouts are up to around 11 per 9 so far with the Phillies, and he hasn't walked a batter or given up a home run. Both of these moves have been great for them, and it should help them try to make a deep run in the postseason despite losing Zach Wheeler. I gotta go with an A+ for both of these moves. Let's wrap this up with the most active team at the deadline, the Padres, whose biggest moves were acquiring Mason Miller from the A's, along with Ryan O'Hearn and Ramon Laureano from the Orioles. Let's start with Mason Miller, who did cost one of the top prospects in the game in Leo DeVries, but so far, it's looked great. ERA and FIP are down over the 11 games so far since coming over from the A's, and his strikeouts are up a little bit, right around 1 strikeout per 9 since coming over from Sacramento. Now, with right-hander Jason Adam going down recently, this move ended up being that much bigger for the Padres. So overall, I gotta give this an A+. They also beefed up the lineup with O'Hearn and Laureano, which ended up being pretty vital as well, with Xander Bogaerts and Jackson Merrill dealing with injuries as of late. Now, with O'Hearn, the numbers have dipped a little bit since coming over from Baltimore, but he still has a pretty respectable WRC+ at a 115, so since he has provided some stability in the lineup, I'll give this move a B. Laureano, on the other hand, has been fantastic. He's hitting over 300 with an OPS over 900 with 7 homers and a WRC+ just below a 160, which has been massive for the Padres up to this point. I'm going to give that move an A+. Since the deadline, the Padres have remained pretty steady up to this point, and these guys are definitely going to have big parts in trying to help the Padres make a deep postseason run. But everybody, those are my thoughts. Those are my grades. Tell me what you think down below. What are the grades you have for these trades? Looking back over a month later, I would love to see what you got to say. But everybody, that's all I got for right now. If you're kind of the way out, hit the like button, subscribe if you're new, and I'll talk to you next time.